Well, hey everyone. It's great to just hang out with you a little bit. A lot of times when I've been coming on here, it's so I can record the Special Education Inner Circle podcast live with you, but then I don't get really a chance to interact with you and hang out with you and answer your questions. So if you have an IEP question, now's the time to go ahead and ask because I've got a little bit of time. Make sure that I can answer those for you. And in the meantime, I'm going to share with you some of the hot topic things that are happening in special education right now. For those of you that don't know, I have been in the field professionally for over, I don't know, like 20 some years. And I have a brother with Down syndrome, so I'm a special needs sibling. So special needs sibling and a teacher. But for the last 2 decades, I've been working for you. Parents, teachers, admins, therapists. I'm building IEPs that work in the real world. It's great in theory to, put together a perfect IEP, but if we're not implementing it, if it's not doable, if it's not relatable, if it's not measurable, then we've got issues. Because you guys know I talk about this all the time. Hey, Holly, I see that you're here. We talk all the time about the purpose of an IEP. So you might think that you know what a purpose is, but when I go out speaking and I'm in front of a group full of parents or even teachers, and I say, what's the purpose of an IEP? I get a ton of different answers. I get things like, well, to help them do the work that the other kids are doing. Nope. Well, to make sure that they reach their next milestone. Maybe. To help them, really participate in class. Maybe. So it's really important for you to get a solid understanding of what the purpose is of an IEP, because that's where you need to be thinking, especially right now. Danielle says, this is my first video with you, and I'm excited to see what you have to say. Danielle, welcome. And I can see, as I'm looking here, you got some blue and yellow ribbon there on your profile picture, which means that you're probably connected in the Down syndrome community. So we're together in that, right? So the struggle is real here in Massachusetts and IEPs. Yeah, it's real everywhere for sure. Hello, Nicole. Hello, Trisha. So let's go ahead and talk. Let's talk about what this purpose of the IEP. It's to provide a free and appropriate public education. We all know that part, right? We all throw around that term FAPE, which is our shorthand for free and appropriate public education. So the next part is what is super important. And I want to say hi to Trisha. Trisha's hanging out in Wisconsin. Me too, hanging out in Wisconsin. Got Lake Michigan there right behind me somewhere throughout all those reflections. There are a lot of construction going on too back there. So the next part after the free and appropriate public education is that we have to meet a child's unique needs. All right, here's why I love that statement. It's because, have you ever heard the statement of, we've never done that before, or we don't do that here? But it's something that would truly help with preparing a child for further education, employment, independent living, because that's the third part, okay? So if you need to do something different than's been done in the past in your district because of your child's needs, that's written right in the purpose and findings. So teachers, this is your sweet spot to go say, hey, we need to look at this differently because this child has unique needs that I've never had before in my classroom. So then we get focused on that further education, employment, and independent living, because right now we don't have time to waste, right? There's been enough stuff happening to put us behind. That's what it feels like. Really, behind what? Everybody feels like we're behind on things. We're not behind. We've had a little detour. We're learning different things. We're working on different things. But we have to be focused on having an appropriate education that meets a child's unique needs, that prepares them for further education, employment, independent living. Okay. Now that we're all on the same page, let me share with you something that I just heard in a little teacher group that I'm a part of. I like to figure out what's going on in the teacher, kind of community. and all the stuff that's happening, because I love teachers. I was a teacher. We need to figure out how to advocate without throwing teachers under the bus, guys. In fact, we already figured that out. That's exactly what we do in the Master IEP Coach mentorship. So we can talk about that a little bit too. That's over at masteriepcoach.com. So you'll want to hop over there if you're like, what the heck? I want to learn how to, really improve IEPs and set them up to prepare for further education, employment, independent living, but I don't know how to do it, especially in this time. Then it's time for you to become a Master IEP Coach. Okay, but here, back to what this teacher was saying. This teacher said that because of everything that's happening and all the caseloads being like messed up in her school and not enough resource teachers available, her being a self-contained special education teacher is being asked to write IEPs for students that she's never met and won't meet and won't work with, and just write the IEP. Here's the student, here's their current IEP, and go update it. So I don't really know how this school district thinks that a teacher who is not providing services to the child is going to be able to write an effective IEP. I'm not really sure, but the teacher's freaking out over it, and she should be, right? The parents, I'm sure, have no idea that this is happening, but they need to know to ask. I wish I could reach out to them. I wish I knew exactly who they were. I'd be like, listen, come join me in the special education inner circle. I'll give you all the questions to ask so you can find out those details. Okay. So I want you guys to be really clear of who's involved in your IEP team. This is really important in this virtual hybrid distance learning world. Okay. So I just shared with you an extreme piece, right? And it's a true piece of what's happening right now. I mean, there are some really unheard of things happening behind the scenes that it's not common knowledge because it shouldn't be common practice, but is in some districts. Okay. But I want you to be very clear of who your team is. If we talk about this purpose and findings of ideal law, which is the law. I'm not a lawyer, you guys. Let me just put the disclaimer out there. I just been telling you where to look in the law and how to use the law in a proactive, positive way with collaborative strategies on your IEP team, okay? You got to know who the players are on your team. So if your OT quit and now there's a new OT, find out the scoop on the new OT. Find out what's happening with the teachers. Find out what's happening with people on your IEP team. Do not assume that you know who the people are. Or if your child is back in school on campus, make sure that you know who the direct service providers are for your child's IEP, because those are flip-flopping around everywhere. I'm seeing that. Okay, so I just shared with you how some teachers that I have, I don't want to say that I know them, bumping in online to them in different places, right? Kind of swimming in the same circles as them. They're being asked to write IEPs that they shouldn't be asked to write. But I'm also seeing, it's not just about the paperwork, that there's people that are working with students that are not necessarily typically on that team, or a lot of substituting that's happening because of all the staff changes that have happened because of everything that's going on. So please be very clear about who your child's team is and who's working with them and what's the plan if they're not showing up, meaning I don't know, a speech therapist got sick. She is, has to be in a self-quarantine for 14 days. Who's going to take care of the child's minutes? I don't know. You got to find that out. Absolutely got to find that out. If you are a parent, teacher, admin, therapist who sits at the IEP table, let me put something up here for you guys. Hop on over to specialedinnercircle.com. And that's where I help you figure all this stuff out. And I'll even set you up with a one-on-one call with a master IEP coach to help figure all this out. Because here's the thing. I recorded a podcast today and it's called the Special Education Inner Circle podcast, in case you guys go look that up wherever you listen to podcasts. It should be there. And I recorded a podcast today, and I don't want to give too much away because it was a phenomenal interview with a master IEP coach named Beth. And she was talking about some cool stuff that I'm not going to share just yet. It'll be released this week. Okay. But one of the things she did say, I'll give you a little sneak peek, is she said that it is self-care. All right. Let me just stop right there. How many of you guys, when you hear as a teacher, as a parent, whoever, you are that's watching right now, and you hear the word self-care, you're like, yeah, right. I don't have time for self-care. Who feels that way? Who's like, I don't have time to take a shower every day. So how am I going to have time for self-care beyond, basic needs, right? Who's feeling that way? There's a lot of people feeling that way. But she said that being part of our community of the Special Education Inner Circle, or MasterIEPCoach.com is actually what we were talking about too. Let's see, I'll put that up here for you guys. MasterIEPCoach.com. She says that's like self-care, because when you decide to become a Master IEP Coach, you decide that you absolutely deserve to stop doing all this IEP stuff by yourself with an overwhelming amount of frustration, following strategies from angry people who really are not looking to move things forward, but they're stuck in that special education drama. That's the real deal of what's happened in special education right now, right? So she said, one of the best things you can do for self-care is to join the Master IEP Coach mentorship, because, it just takes away some of the guilt of like, I'm doing something for myself. This actually says, okay, I'm going to go become a Master IEP Coach so I can do something for my child or for my students. And I'm going to do this for myself so I don't have to struggle alone anymore. And I loved that. Quite honestly, I talk about the Master IEP Coach mentorship all the time. A lot, right? And it's because I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with the results that we're getting. And it's just amazing to see what is happening even in these struggles. So think about going over to MasterIEPCoach.com to get into the community that you've probably been looking for on how to figure out special education without all the fighting and aggravation. All right. Tricia says, can they take speech off of an IEP if it helps with cognitive functioning? So Tricia, here's the thing. I'm not quite sure how they're trying to pair those two things together, but I can say that anytime a service is removed from an IEP, there should be a significant amount of data that is given to show how the child has made progress, a gap has been closed, and that reducing or removing services is warranted because of the data. We don't just make decisions based on feelings, we make decisions based on facts. So there's a lot of feelings floating around special education right now. I get it, I understand, but we got to put those feelings aside. In fact, that's one of the big strategies I talk about all the time. If you find yourself starting a sentence with, I feel like this virtual learning isn't working, that's not valid in making IEP decisions. It's a valid feeling. I honor that. I recognize that, but I can't make decisions based on that. Not as a teacher, as a parent, as an admin. Now, if I have data to show that virtual learning is not working, then I can feel that way and have the data to back it up. All right. So Tricia, if there's changes happening in your child's IEP, please make sure that there is data to support that. Let's see. Somebody just said, as of today, that their school is going to go back to full remote due to all of the stuff that's going on. And yeah, I'm purposely avoiding saying all those words because it gets flagged everywhere. We've mentioned that. All that stuff. Okay. So I will tell you, Jolanda, I am in the same situation as a parent. I have 2 teenage daughters and they got word that we are going back to all virtual. I think that this is going to be a constant swing back and forth until certain things happen. And we're not going to talk about the certain things because we all have different opinions on how, what, when, where, why, all the things that need to happen. But the bottom line is we're going to have some shifts in some, different areas of our country and in our, education and medical communities. And when different things happen, then I predict that there's going to be a shift that's going to happen. We won't have so much back and forth. But that being said, due to the amount of fear that has been put out there, and I'm not saying anything's not real. I'm just saying that there is a fear, okay? And everybody's at different levels and all for different reasons. And I honor and respect all of those. Virtual learning, it looks like, I'm already seeing it, is going to go through the end of the school year for several districts. Maybe not mandatory, but definitely optional. So it's going to be interesting because we've never seen this in education at this scale before. And I don't think any of us predicted last March that the following March, we might be talking about the same things. Again, even if it's not mandatory, as an option of that. So it's going to be completely strange, just absolutely strange. So let's talk about a few other things that are happening in special education. You guys can go grab, let's see, an IEP checklist. Let me put that up there for you. I got like surprises everywhere happening on there. If you guys head over to IEPchecklist.com, I've got an IEP checklist for you that you can have. You can download that, start checking off some boxes. You'll get my email when you sign up to get that checklist, and then you can shoot me over an email. And yes, I answer all of my own emails. You can ask me questions. Most likely, if you ask me a question and it's pretty in-depth, I'm going to send you over to the Special Education Inner Circle because I've probably got a training for you that I've already recorded that you can watch on demand in that way. So I want to encourage you to go get your free IEP checklist with that. Here's the other thing that is happening quite often in special education right now. I'm seeing a lot of misunderstandings of what is being changed, added, or modified in the IEP documents when paperwork is being shuffled between home and school. Meaning, I'm hearing a lot of parents say things like, the school wants me to change my child's IEP, and they're just want to send the paperwork home, and that's going to happen instead of an IEP meeting. And I have to say, well, is it a full change in the IEP? Are they changing something specific inside the IEP? Is this considered your annual IEP meeting? Is it just a distance learning plan addendum in the IEP? Like, what are they saying? Because no longer can we just say the word IEP, like, oh, we're going to do this IEP meeting, because what we assumed was the IEP meeting like a year ago. It's happening for all different reasons right now. Sometimes that we're having IEP meetings to, again, do like a paperwork shuffle and add in a distance learning plan. Sometimes we're having IEP meetings and we're making huge changes to the core document, to the core services. So you have to be really clear on what paperwork is going back and forth more than ever, because districts are dealing with a lot of new paperwork also. Let's see. Stephanie says, when a parent requests full remote learning, they do not have the option of special learning services. They put the student into regular classes. If the student has an IEP and is staying on remote learning, the schools should still be making their best effort to provide those services remotely. Now, we have a lot of creative solutions happening inside of our Master IEP Coach Network. So as I talk about a few of these solutions, let me just throw this up here, because you guys are going to say, how the heck did they get that done? And let me just say that if you go to masteriepcoach.com, you'll find out that the next mentorship doesn't start till February, but I'm not going to make you wait that long. We have bonus coaching that's going to start next month, because we don't have time to wait. So the full mentorship starts in February. Bonus coaching starts in November. And, Stephanie was just asking about what's going on if you decide to do remote learning. If the child has an IEP, you still have to make some attempts to make that happen. But let me tell you about a couple of things. I got a Master IEP coach, Rhonda, and a couple of other Master IEP coaches that have secured several different versions of services at home, including things like private speech therapy, private occupational therapy, in-home BCBAs, an ABA therapist, social workers, all of these provided privately, paid for by the schools. None of the master IEP coaches went due process. None of them filed OCR complaints. None of them had to write nasty letters and have, 15 meetings to get nowhere. No. What they did is they stuck to the purpose and findings of IDEA law. They looked at the different regulations that are coming down from the federal government of what needs to be provided during this virtual learning time. They looked at what the child's needs are, both short-term and long-term, and how we need to stabilize and get back to baseline as quickly as possible using strategies for recovery and remedial learning. Okay, that was a lot of words in there. Master IEP coaches, they're awesome at putting all those things together. I love to teach them to use effective sentences, effective strategies, effective negotiations to truly individualize a child's IEP, especially during this time. Now, that doesn't mean that the child is getting an extensive amount of everything provided at home, that it's like this, like the students, the king and all the people just come to the house and provide all these services of OT and PT and speech and BCBA. No, there was a lot of compromise in making that happen, but it was the right compromises to ensure that the child is still receiving an appropriate education, even though they're choosing remote learning, because that's the right decision for the child's health, both short-term and long-term in this situation. So I have enjoyed hanging out with you guys today. This was good. This was good. Like I said, most of the time I'm over here recording the podcast and not doing a whole lot of interaction because we've all been super busy with this. So I appreciate you for showing up. I appreciate you for, really digging into special education during these difficult times and making a difference for your child and for your students. It takes a lot of work. Oh gosh, you know what? I can't resist. Holly has a question. So before I wrap it up, we're going to take Holly's question. It says, so I got to be like this over it. Holly says, question, my niece has an IEP from last December, but now she is not having any assistance from her last year, which is just reading instruction and extra time. They said she is no longer required, but no data has been provided, yet she's failing all courses. Is this acceptable? No, Holly. The right place for your family right now would be right over here, Special Education Inner Circle. All right. I'll set you up with a one-on-one with a master IEP coach. You could do it. Your family could, your niece's mom or caregiver could take the one-on-one, but Special Ed Inner Circle is the place where we can nail down some strategies to get unstuck from that current situation and help things to move forward based on data, facts, not feelings in there. So Sandra, you're very welcome. Jolanda, awesome. So glad that you're here today. All right, everyone. On that note, I'm wrapping up for the day. Got another busy day tomorrow here in the IEP office. I'll see you guys real soon. Keep the questions coming. I'll check on the comment thread or come visit me over at masteriepcoach.com or specialedinnercircle.com. Tons of resources for you. And I'll see you guys soon.